Good morning. This is Monday Morning with Cheryl, and I'm hoping everyone had a wonderful 4th of July. When I was a middle school principal, and I know I talk about that a lot, I would take the kids with a couple of other teachers to Washington, D.C. for their annual end-of-year trip. And of course, the kids were excited just because they were going away with their friends. But I wanted it to be more than that. There was a lot of learning that took place on this trip. So at the end of every day, we would sit in the hallway across from each other, and I'd have them journal about what we did and something that stood out for them. And then we would process, something they learned, what surprised them, what they connected to. And it was really great. They had a wonderful social studies teacher, a very dear friend of mine, who just did an excellent job of teaching American history. So they were so excited to see some of these places. And beforehand, I would have them do in a class that I taught a report about a specific place we were going to see. So we really prepped them before and during. Didn't do a great job after we got back, but we made the trip more about just being with their friends. They learned a lot and they made a connection, but I think it was those hallway meetings that really made a difference, because we did so much. Have you ever been on a trip and you do so much you don't even realize what you did in a day? So that is one example about the art of gathering. And this book that I read is just incredible. And I wanted to share, because that's such a perfect example of going an extra mile for an event. I want to share Priya Parker's definition of what gathering is all about. So bear with me. Gatherings determine the kind of world we live in both our intimate and public realms. Gather, the conscious bringing together of people for a reason, shapes the way we think, feel, and make sense of our world. So, I don't know about you, but have you been to that fundraiser, been to that event, family function, where sometimes they're just, oh my gosh, nothing special, just kind of run of the mill, and or those times where you've been to that birthday party where something about it felt extra special. So, Priya Parker goes into a lot of detail about going through an event, thinking ahead, how to prep the guests from the invitation to meeting people at the door, the role of the host, the actual event, and then how to close an event. And she talks about, which is so true, that when something's coming up, we get so busy with the logistics that we sometimes forget about what we're going to do with the people. So my son's getting married, and I think they're doing a great job of balancing both, checking the thing off for the logistics, but also how to gather people in a meaningful way. So way to go, Ben. So what I wanted to do here today is, instead of going through those logistics of actually making an event meaningful, I wanted to give you a couple of examples that can show how you can mark time and make it sacred and honor that moment or that special event, or something that's not even maybe that special. It could be ordinary but still meaningful. So I have one client who, she and her husband, both of her adult kids, came home during COVID, and they had already left home and came back, and they were getting ready to leave again. And I asked her what she was going to do to mark that special time, and her eyes lit up. And she said, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea, because they could have just left, said goodbye. Oh, you feel sad but excited at the same time. But instead, I think she decided to have a special dinner. And I don't know if they were going to give them a little special gift or a small ceremony of some kind. They had a lot of humor in their family, so they might have done something fun and silly. But to mark that time that they may never have again. Another example is, I have a client who's divorced with 2 kids, and her parents have been living with her during COVID. And they were getting ready to move out. Not far, but they were getting ready to move out. But the kids had really enjoyed having them there, and it sounded like the grandparents really liked it. So I asked her, what could they do to mark this special time they had together? And it could have been just a dinner, sitting down together to say what they were grateful for. The grandparents saying what they were grateful for this difficult time, but also joyous in a certain way, and have the kids, maybe they make a little special card or a gift, or just even say something about their gratitude for having their grandparents there during that time. there are just so many different ways to mark moments. I know for a holiday during COVID, because of being safe and not being able to all gather, we had a small group at my house, and I came up with all these questions that tied into the holiday, but just to add to the dinner and to, the usual rituals of what we do, which are always meaningful, but to add a different layer. And, it's funny how by just having these questions ready, I put them in a cute way, that you get to know family members on a deeper level. You've known them their whole life, and yet sometimes we learn more about them, which can be really, really special. So there are so many things we can do. So whether it's a birthday, a graduation, or just a neighborhood barbecue, I'd love you to think about that extra step that you can do to mark this occasion. And what I didn't note that I think is really important is to think about the why. Why are you gathering? It's not usually, and sometimes it is, and then it doesn't need to be meaningful, but it's really usually more than just the family barbecue. Why are you coming together? What is it all about? I know we have some, I have grandnieces now, and so when we get together, there's this, this added joy that we're now passing traditions on to these little ones. And what does that look like, and what's important to us, and why are we doing these things? So really think about the deeper meanings behind these events and make them a little bit extra special. So I'd love to hear something that maybe you've done to make this event more meaningful. So please share. I love hearing from you. And if you have any ideas that you'd like for future videos, please let me know. I'd love to hear something that you'd like discussed. So take care and make that event special.